Good evening, students. This is Mr. Kidd again with your video lesson. The first thing that I'd like for you to do is to pause the video and read the problem that I've written down on the board. And I'd like for you to take just about 2 minutes is all and think about the problem and think about what you would do to solve this problem. All right, let's take a look at this problem and let's see what you thought of about this problem. It says Miss Santos owns a neighborhood grocery store. She has 56 apples to arrange in rows for a window display. She has room for 4 rows in her window. Our question is, how many apples will there be in each row if she puts the same number in each row? Well, our first step in our problem-solving plan is that we always read the question twice, so I hope you did that, so that we can understand the problem. What is going on? Well, I hope you saw that Miss Santos has a grocery store, and that she is trying to put her apples, which she has 56 apples, in her window display. And the other information that's given is that she has room for 4 rows of them. In order to figure out the answer or solution to this problem, we must first know what we're looking for. And that's in our question. So it asks us, how many apples will there be in each row? So we're looking for the number of apples in each row if she puts the same amount in each row. So she's not putting 20 in one row and then 2 in the next. She wants the same amount in each row. Well, as you can see here, I have a bunch of apples, and there are 56 apples here. So one of the strategies that we can think about is what exactly is Miss Santos doing with those apples? Well, if she is trying to take them and split them into 4 rows, 4 equal rows, then she is trying to divide the amount of apples up into 4 equal groups, or in this case, 4 equal rows. So the equation that I would write to show this is that she is going to take the 56 apples and she is going to divide them or split them up into 4 equal rows, and that will tell us the number of apples that will be in each row. And so I'll use the letter A for apples. So that is what we're looking for, the apples that end up in each row. This is the sentence notation for writing 56 divided by 4. The other notation that you can have is this, and it looks strange, but we would write it as 56 underneath the bracket divided by 4. Now at this point, I do not want you to do any traditional algorithm for solving this problem. However, I'd like to take the apples, because this is a great picture, and let's start putting them into rows. Well, if I take, I'll start 1 row. There's 2 rows of apples, 3 rows of apples, and 4 rows of apples. Okay. So then I could continue adding to my rows. I could do 1 more apple in that row, 1 more apple in that row, 1 more apple in that row, and 1 more apple in that row. Oh my goodness, this sounds like it's going to take a long time. I could do this. I could put another apple in this row, and another apple in this row, and another apple in this row, and another apple in this row. Okay, guys, you can wake up now. I'm not going to do any more of that. You guys can see that that would take quite a bit of time to divide up those 56 apples into 4 equal rows. So how can we put more than one apple in each row? Well, I always like to think of the easiest numbers first. Well, is it possible, do I have enough apples that I could put 10 apples in each row automatically? Well, that would be a multiplication, because 4 rows with 10 apples would be 40. So I certainly could do that, and I can do that quickly, and I don't have to keep counting each row. There's 10 in that row, 10 in that row, and I'll show you just a second with numbers what we just did, instead of having to do this the whole time. So you can see I'm doing 10. And we certainly want to do this with larger numbers either. So we are trying to find strategies that will help us divide up these items, or these apples, in a very quick and efficient way. Still hope you haven't fallen asleep yet. Alright, so now we went ahead just like that. So instead of actually having to place them in those rows, what I did was, I said that I took those 4 rows and I put 10 apples in each row. So I used up how many of the 56 apples? Of course, that's easy enough. I used 40 apples to make those 4 rows of 10. Now, of course, I have some left still over here. I didn't use all 56 yet, but I used quite a bit. So I know that I put 10 apples in each of the 4 rows. So how would I figure out how many apples I still had left? Think about that for just a second. If you said, well, we started with 56 apples, and if I have 56 apples, and I used 40 of them in my rows, then I should have 16 apples left still to put in the rows. Now, if I take these 16 apples, is 4 a factor of 16? Meaning, can I skip count by 4 and land on 16? If so, then I know exactly how many more apples I can put in each row. And yes, you already knew that. So if I take those 4 rows and put 4 more apples in it, I'll use up the last 16 apples. So now you can see that I have put all 56 apples into 4 equal rows. So I should place 4 more in each row, and let's see if this works out. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and a 4. All right, so we're almost there. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So absolutely correct. Perfect. We were able to take, instead of doing 1 apple at a time, we went ahead and said, well, wow, I'm just going to go ahead and do 10 apples in each row, and I'll use up 40. So here we have the 4 rows with that's our 4 rows with 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this is 40 apples here that we did first. And then we had still 4 rows, we were still putting them in. And we know 4 rows of 4 used up our last 16 apples for all 56 apples. So this is one strategy for dividing. We know it's dividing because why? Because we were splitting up or putting into equal groups the 56. Remember to write down any questions you may have and make sure that you take notes on the particular items you think that are most important. And we will have our discussion at the start of our class tomorrow. Have a great evening, and I'll see you then.